What a fight this was against a truly game challenger in that of Anthony Yarde. Now, unlike Artur's previous fights, he wasn't simply able to walk down and break Yarde. Artur really had to work for the victory this time around, and this I think is honestly his toughest fight he's had in his professional career. The first round was pretty much a feeling out process with Artur constantly throwing a lunging jab to get on the inside of Yarde. But Yarde showed great use of the left hook, which constantly caught Artur again and again. You can really tell Yarde and his team did their homework on Artur because Artur likes to L-step away from the opponent's dominant hand. But as he steps away from their dominant hand, this leaves him open to getting caught by the left hook. Another thing that was evident in Yarde's game plan was to always move around in the ring. Getting stuck on the ropes or the corner would be the last thing you want to do against a guy like Artur. So creating distance with the jab and moving around is key. However, Artur is just so deadly with his overhand and always perfectly times it over Yarde's jab. Artur doesn't really do anything that fancy with his style. It's just that his consistent pressure combined with some very dangerous power punches eventually pushes all his opponents back against the ropes, and this is really where he starts to break them down. Now take note of this punch that Yarde throws because this will be his downfall eventually. It's a very high risk uppercut punch that Yarde throws from a very far angle, whilst also not protecting his head. We will come back to this later in the video. More than just a power puncher, Artur also possesses some pretty underrated defenses. Just take a look at his feet and how he will always L-step away from Yarde's dominant hand. This is done in order to negate the effectiveness of Yarde's cross because it would be harder to land now. Something Artur liked to do against Yarde is throw these lunging punches, kind of like the gazelle hook Rocky Marciano would throw often. These lunging punches were so useful because it allowed Artur to leap in from very far away and immediately get on the inside range of Yarde. He would also lunge in with a jab and throw a straight immediately afterwards. Such a useful technique in breaking the distance and pushing the opponents back against the ropes. This is not to say that Yarde didn't have moments of his own. In the fourth round, he started letting his hands fly more and was catching Artur clean with his left hook and cross. It reached a point wherein Yarde was landing so hard on Artur, and now it was Artur the one who was backing up to the corner. Confidence was building up in Yarde, but his confidence would make him a bit reckless and fall into Artur's tricks. Yarde would recklessly charge at Artur when he was in the corner, but then Artur would use Yarde's own momentum against him. He would use his left hook to push Yarde into the ropes, kind of like a matador controlling a bull. Now it was Yarde whose back was against the ropes and Artur could capitalize on this. Despite this, Yarde kept fighting on, landing many great punches on Artur and a perfect 1-2 punch combo that Artur really felt. Even the crowd was stunned by it, and it looks as if Artur was even checking his jaw after the punch. But just like a while ago, Yarde would find himself stuck in the ropes again despite having the dominant position. Artur would just quite simply use Yarde's own momentum against him and push him to the ropes, giving him another opportunity to break Yarde down. This kept happening on so many occasions, Yarde clearly having the better position here, but somehow he always loses it and finds himself in the corner and once again suffering from Artur's deadly punches. Now this uppercut Yarde has been throwing since the beginning of the fight would be his downfall. Notice how telegraphed it is when he throws it. He will dip down very low and throw the uppercut from a very far angle. He doesn't really mix up the way he's been throwing this uppercut and will immediately throw it again. Artur has now read this movement of Yarde and knows what to expect next when he dips down again. In the next round, Yarde will make the exact same movement, but this time Artur is prepared for what's coming. He dips down, but as soon as he readies his uppercut, Artur throws a punch of his own, which catches Yarde in between his punch, stunning him enough for Artur to land a devastating overhand to put him down. Yarde gets up one more time, but the fight is pretty much over at this point. Yarde's corner tells the ref to stop the fight and the victory goes to Artur. Honestly, this is a candidate for Fight of the Year. both boxers displaying so much heart and determination, and it's a very fan-friendly match. Also, an amazing job to Yarde's corner for choosing to stop the fight. They possibly saved him from a big knockout that could have been very detrimental to his health. Now only one real man remains for Artur to fight, and that is Dmitry Bivol, to become the undisputed light heavyweight champion of the world.